Quantum Bombs.
Welcome to Quantum Bombs, a commentary show on the human condition through metaphysics and freedom. Though today we are really looking at the human condition and how we think, view, and measure money, riches, and wealth. And because I'm a nuanced person, this topic of the world's richest man has always driven me crazy. So today we are going to go over the list of the world's top 10 richest men, then countries. Then we're doing the crux of today's episode. With that nugget, we then form our new list, or we look at our new evaluation on the world's richest men and the world's richest country. Today's an awesome day. I say that hesitantly because we don't know really how AI will pan out for humans, but yet it is still exciting. XAI has its IPO. It came out today, long awaited. We've got two other big behemoths coming out. I'm a big fan of Anthropic, so it's great. Elon Musk has become the world's first trillionaire. And by the metric that drives me crazy, the nuance of the show is that it is because his wealth, the richest man status, what most people in life don't understand is it's based on his, I know you financial bros do, I got to say that. As I'm saying this, I'm feeling you out there. It's based on his Tesla stock evaluation. And now as today, yay, he's a trillionaire because we're adding in his XAI stock. But, and the reason why this matters, we're going to get to it by the end of the episode, is the framing around that. Because Elon, you're so rich, you have $1 trillion. Why can't you just give some of that to poor people in Africa? The framing of how we measure wealth matters. And we're going to get to that for countries and for people. And why is Elon Musk not just super wealthy? Well, sure, Beth, the word of today, actually, as you probably have guessed on the episode, is liquid. Well, duh, Beth, his stocks aren't liquid, but he could just sell them, right? True, but I did work on a project years ago, and that's why it's always gotten at me when I've heard it. The project was explaining in layman to people what Rule 144 restricted stock is and what it means. Simply put, because I'm not a financial expert, Rule 144 stock basically tells people like Elon, well, first off, it's a safety net that started in the 1930s after we had our Great Depression. They said, you know what, pump and dump schemes just aren't working out for the shareholders, right? So it tells people who are typically founders of the company or maybe even employees of the company insiders who have and were given and acquired this stock, you can't just dump it on the market and sell it at a whim. So yes, you could always own shares, but you can't just sell it like you could normal stock. It's got Rule 144 stamped on it, telling people like Elon, you could sell basically around 1% every quarter. And yes, there's some given nuances, but that's roughly it. So it basically just says you can't dump your stock. So Elon technically isn't the richest man in the world. He's the most collaterally rich man in the world. What that means, guys, is every bank wants to lend to him, right? He's a sexy, oh my gosh, I would love to lend that guy money. And borrow he does. So he didn't really pay for XAI, $44 billion to save free speech. Thank you. Means the world to me with everything happening right now in Europe, that we can have truth shared with the world. It's saving lives. Worth every penny. But yes, so he borrowed funds against his Tesla stock. He didn't have $44 billion, which, what does that mean? Is that what makes him different, him being cash broke, him having to sell all of his houses, majority of his houses a few years ago, just because he wanted some cash. He doesn't have cash. He didn't even have cash to buy X. He borrowed it, which makes his stock, not only does he have restrictions on his stock, but the stock he does have is also pledged. And that's the difference I like thinking about when you think about Warren Buffett. Well, he's got a lot of cash. Well, yes, but his cash is also owned by Berkshire Hathaway, the company. It's not individually his $300 billion, which he's sitting on a lot because he knows something's coming, baby. He knows something's up. Something is a brewing. Bond market's not looking good. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, so Warren Buffett's stock that he does have actually is easier to even have access to because majority of his stock isn't pledged. But anyways, the point is poor old Elon isn't the richest man in the world, which let's get to our lists now that I've yammered enough about this. So as of today, we're looking at the 10 wealthiest men in the world based on our crappy standards of measurement. And I will tell you here shortly why the crappy measurements of standard are really the best we got. You can kind of figure this out with logic, right? Because this has to be provable. So here's our provable public knowledge list of people's wealth based on stockholder. Number 1 is Elon, coming in at 1.1 trillion as of today, as I sit in this chair. We've got Larry Page, who is with Google, Alphabet, and then also Sergey Brin with Alphabet, Larry Ellison with Oracle, and Mark Zuckerberg, right? Jeff Bezos, Jensen Huang, which is with NVIDIA. I actually made the list 10 people because I wanted to include him because I was like, how is he not on top 5? So anyway, thank you, Jensen. Warren Buffett, number 8. 9, Bill Gates, and 10, Mukesh Ambani. Look on the screen if you want to see the totals of what everybody's worth, but there's a massive difference between Elon Musk's wealth and at 1.1 trillion and the next person, Larry Page, at $304 billion. So then I was thinking, why isn't Saudi money, some of this Middle Eastern or big chiefs in India, why aren't they included in the top 10? Well, the answer is because that Saudi money I was thinking about is actually sovereign wealth funds, top sovereign wealth funds. So these are states, guys. These are our governments. This is interesting once I started looking at it. So we're going to go over the top 7. And these are, think of them as not checking accounts, they're savings accounts. And I call them savings account roughly because while they're not liquid, they are still easily liquid, meaning they could turn them liquid pretty quickly. So Norway coming in at the top, number 1, 2.1 trillion. Funny story, I was in Oslo and I was walking and I just paid $36 for my lunch and based on my dollar, exchange. And I saw the bum on the street and I was like looking at that bum and I was like, that bum is wealthier than I am. And there was actually some truth to that. By me being an American citizen and that bum having Norwegian citizenship, technically where I stood, I felt like he was wealthier than me. Anyways, these countries are stacking away wealth and savings. 2 is China at 2 trillion. 3 is also China with another fund that's several hundred billion. There's that Saudi money at number 4, coming in at basically around $1 trillion. 5 is that Kuwait money coming in at 1 trillion. 6, the UAE. High hundreds of billions. And 7 is Qatar, 580 billion. Now that sounds about right. And I was like, well, gosh. Okay, so what I'm going to say here is accurate and not accurate at the same time, which is, I was wondering like, well, of course, America isn't on the list of good savings, right? These are all people sticking money away from what their revenue has brought in. Why aren't we doing that? Why? Because we're debt driven, bro. We like flaunting that 39T a lot. But really like, well, Beth, why would you save money when the rest of the world, clearly right here, is already doing a lot of that savings is represented in dollars. They're already doing it for us. Why would we save when we got the money printer, baby? And everybody has to, gun to the head, buy oil in US dollars. I say that lightly, but it sure correlates, right? When you try to step away from the US dollar, things don't go so well with our military. So it's kind of like we're bullying people to continue to let the dollar be the world reserve as we have the wonderful practice of not saving because we're the primary currency. I guess to my point is that we don't have any assets to show, at least right here, right now. We'll get to that if you're saying that we do. Something interesting to note here is if we go by the paper wealth of Elon Musk, he actually beats everyone on the sovereign wealth funds list for governments except Norway and China. Okay, so now we're going to be technically accurate. We're going to look at the most liquid of funds, right? For countries first, then for people. So countries with the most liquid, foreign currencies on hand, cash that they could easily expel quickly, changes a little bit. Norway's disappeared now. We've got China in at number 1 at $3.4 trillion. So love them or hate them, if you're just looking at the US versus China, this is maybe why they hold a lot of power because, bro, they're liquid. Two is Japan, 1.3 trillion, which is quite interesting because the yen is having quite a bit of problems right now and balancing. I think it's their bond market as well. Could be wrong. Anyway, Switzerland, 3, 800 billion. And then we go down to India, Russia, Taiwan, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, Hong Kong, and we made the list. I wonder if AI just put it in on there just to put it into our metrics. But USA coming in at number 10 with $240 billion of cash reserves. Okay, which again, I make a face because $240 billion compared to 39 trillion. I'm horrible at math, but I know it's not, I don't know the percentage, but it doesn't count. Basically nothing, a big nothing burger. Okay, well here, hold on guys. Dun, 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 dun. USA comes in number 1 on countries by gold. I'll list out the rest, but we have 8,000 tons of gold. Germany coming in at number 2 at 3,300 tons of gold. The third is Italy, 4th is France, 5th is Russia, 6th is China, 7th is Switzerland, 8 Japan, 9 India, and 10 the Netherlands. Woohoo! So maybe we are savers, right? We hold some assets. We didn't blow it and spend it. This is basically just an old remnant, like grandma's old ring that we kept in the closet, guys. When you do the math, which thankfully AI already did the math for me, 8,000 tons of gold sold on today's market simply correlates to, I think it's like 2% of the national debt at $39 trillion. So it really, I don't even know. I mean, yeah, you'd list it on our little collateral list when you're doing your banking and you want to list all the assets you got to offset what you're trying to borrow against. But really, wow, having that 39T with this 8,000 tons of gold doesn't really get us anywhere. But at least we could act like, hey, we're responsible. Fort Knox has a lot of good stuff in it, which is still debatable if we even have it or not, right? I mean, I don't know. I haven't looked into it, but I know it's a theory that we didn't actually follow up on when Elon's like, let's just go. It was actually Elon saying, hey, Trump, we're bros now. I think we're talking at this point. Go and open up Fort Knox. And we didn't. Okay. And now what you have been waiting for, the promise of the premise, is how do we calculate the wealthiest humans alive on planet Earth? Will Elon make it? Well, the irony is that, guys, we can't really make a list that could be accurate because obviously cash assets, thank goodness, at least until this day in the United States, is private. You're burying your gold in your ranch, private. None ya, right? But I couldn't leave us without a list. So, of course, I compiled a list, but it's just a fun guesstimate, and it's based on liquid assets. And then I think I made I made a list based on, well, what if it's not cash? What if it's just like crypto or something? And I don't even know what I did with that, but we're going to get to it because I wanted to include gold and crypto at this point when we're talking about things that are easily liquid. Crypto is uber easy liquid, as you probably know. You just flick your thumb around on the screen and oops, sometimes you lost your, crap, did I really send it there? And, it's very scary how easily you could send around crypto. Scary because you could accidentally lose it or do something stupid, etc. The other thing is that gold is plenty of buyers to buy that gold once you could verify it's real. Okay, actually, turns out I made one list. One list of everything. This is basically including cash, gold, and crypto all at once. Woohoo! I knew I didn't go crazy. Okay, and then I also want to, these are colored themed, guys, for a reason. These are also, I made the first one red because it's a big no-no on it's hard to liquidate versus the blue. I thought blue is a lovely color. It really should be green, meaning easy to sell, baby. All right. These are basically inversed, if you could see, because Bill Gates was number 9 on our stockholder wealth. But unfortunately, saw the other day someone on Rumble was making a case that he's a lizard. Didn't watch it, but he's the super, super weird guy, has very weird endeavors to have us eating fake food, sticking us with jabs that aren't good for people. We have Bill Gates coming in. Oh, yes. Super weird guy, $50 billion. He's very diversified in his assets, a lot of cash and bonds on hand. That makes him the world's wealthiest man by the metric. I always think like the metric of some like young girl reading the headline, like, you know, some 17-year-old girl going, "Oh, wow, you know, he should help people." Second is Michael Bloomberg at 40 billion. He's cash rich. Third is Jeff Bezos, actually 20 billion regular stock sales. So that might even mean every quarter he's selling that 1%, baby. Fourth is Warren Buffett, $10 billion, slow trickle out. And that's as we expected, right? We knew Warren's cash heavy right now, waiting for something, the shoe to drop. 5 is Michael Saylor, big fan of Michael myself. 1.3 billion, baby, in that personal Bitcoin. So that doesn't even include, you know, you're thinking of his company owns a lot of stock, but he actually owns like, I think it's 17,000 shares on his own privately. So that's boom. And that's based off Bitcoin's price today. Hope you're buying the dip. It's around $63,000 this last week. I got my old boomer pops, finally got him buying Bitcoin for the first time and on a Gemini credit card, earning points in Bitcoin. And already in a month, based on him dining out a lot, he's already earned $80. It works quite well. I need to give a referral link actually. But then we have Changpeng Zhao, 1 billion in crypto. All right, crypto bro. Number 7, Brian Armstrong, under 1 billion liquid. 8 is Larry Ellison of, I believe, Google, right? Mostly Oracle stock, meaning he's already sold it, most likely. Or he either owns it without the restriction. Because this whole metric, in fact, I was mad at AI when we made this list. It included people's stocks. I was like, what's the point of doing this show if we're just giving the same list that you saw in the red right there? This is supposed to take out their stocks. And we're actually talking liquid, baby. 9 is Mark Zuckerberg. Tiny, almost all of Meta stock. I wonder what it means by that. And number 10. Now, technically, you could argue that Elon isn't even 10. But for the sake of the show, I needed to make the inverse. He went from number 1 to the bottom. This, again, is a fun guesstimate of people's wealth, guys. These are not actual factual terms, but this is just based on like public knowledge and us guessing that Elon is number 10, near zero liquid, all pledged stock. Yes, as we know, pledged meaning he's already borrowed against it. God bless him for buying X. All right, so I think the point of what I wanted to make is that to that bleeding heart empathetic person that's always wanting the billionaires to give to the poor, right? The framing around it is, first, they don't even have it to give. And it's not even theirs a lot of times to give, right? Like my assumption, well, isn't Warren Buffett, you know, heavy in cash? Well, not really. Berkshire Hathaway is. So, and then there's also the framing that I couldn't help but put in on this episode because it's just how I feel about things. But as you know, a lot of people that are complaining about billionaires, number 1, they give more jobs and money to people that way. But number 2, when you try to just water hose the world with your not suicidal empathy, but it's almost the same thing, of that performative virtue signaling empathy, you can't just give poor people money and think that it's going to work out. It typically goes straight back to the top. And AI got offended when I made this point because I was like, oh yeah, that's easy. And so I argued my case, so it's very well put in my head. But the point being is that they don't have the structure to receive a lot of money. It's why NFL players and athletes who are wealthy typically after retirement lose it. Lottery winners don't have it years after. When someone on government benefits gets money and they're already getting their nails done on government benefits, are they going to, when you give them money, are they really going to make the choice of, should I go back to the nail salon and double down? Most likely they will, because they don't understand that the other choice would be setting up the structure around them to receive the money, to allocate it, to put it in places that have yields, etc. But yeah, that's why it won't work. You know, you could say that all day long and hate billionaires all day long, but I think they are the most necessary people in society. To Elon's point, he argues that we should be having babies because the only way to work through problems is not because we have a population problem. In fact, I heard the other day, population could be as low as like 6 billion people, and it's not 8 billion people like we've been told. It could even be as low as 5 billion people. But by having more babies, you're bringing more genius, more people that will have ingenuity to bring companies and technology into the world, to put dinner on the table, to have the mortgage paid, because they're able to create the jobs. Of course, that's why I said this is bittersweet at the top, because we have AI coming in, and I don't know exactly how that'll play out. However, I have given you, if you go back to my prior episodes, shout out, go watch the video. It's called AI Can't Afford Itself. I make a case for likely futures financially with AI that you might not have thought about. And then I made a follow-up to that one, letting you know every single thought I could possibly include on the nuanced topic of the 3,400 data centers that Trump in June 2025 signed into law, as that we could have a high-speed rail to just go ahead, take your land, turn off your power, because for national security, guys, we're fighting China. We got to beat them on these data centers. But really, is it just to take over our agricultural food or create some type of mass surveillance digital grid hell? I don't know. But I don't want to lose my train of thought. I'm riffing on AI, but the point is that as of right now, billionaires are creating a lot of jobs. Yes, we're going into a technocratic era where AI is taking over, and that ironically may not give jobs, but may take away jobs. It most certainly will happen. First and foremost, coming really quickly, you'll see it through the number one employer of the entire world. Do you know what it is? It's drivers. So the minute AI takes over driving 18-wheelers or lorries like in the UK, that's when the largest workforce around the world will lose their jobs. However, there's so many other different facets that could happen. I'm more of a pessimist than an optimist, but I'm open and I'm standing behind my point right now, which is there is so much more room for abundance. We are never living in a scarcity mentality of we should stop having people, or even from the fact that we've got to steal from the billionaires and give to the poor, because again, the structures and the knowledge and even the choice preference isn't there. Even if you give the mass majority of people, I like to, the popular term is NPCs, I call them derpers, even with the choice of I could invest it, or I could just go back to the nail salon and double down on those super long nails, that's still there. Right? In the event billionaires did send a country tons of money, we have now proven that anytime NGOs with our government gets involved, or anytime large sums of money are sent anywhere, it's more likely to be picked off by corrupt people than given to the very people it needs to go to. And every way, Africa today is a perfect example of this. When it even gets to Africa, let's say it gets to the right people, even their own governments are corrupt and typically take it, and the money doesn't get distributed where it needs to go. So the metrics of how we measure wealth is interesting. Not all the people have it, but I still like that we've made a trillionaire, only because I'm a little bit bored in life and I get interest in geopolitics and watching these things happen. To the point of my show and my fun ramblings today, wealth is what we think it is. The richest man alive can't spend his fortune. He's collaterally rich, borrowing against stock he can't sell. The richest country doesn't save a dime. It prints and owes 39 trillion. We measure everyone in dollars, while the dollar itself is backed by nothing but force of our military and faith. The whole scoreboard is a facade, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So welcome to the day the first trillionaire was created, on paper only. Stay human, stay free, and stay liquid, baby. You never know what's coming our way soon. I'm just kidding. I like staying diversified and stay liquid. Bye-bye.
Quantum bombs.